Hey everyone, this is Andy Hall. Our guest today or tonight. For me, it's tonight. For our guest, it's today because he is all the way over in New Zealand. I'm talking, of course, about Harley Neville. I'm going to read his bio from his IMDb page. Harley Neville is a producer and actor from New Zealand. He was introduced to filmmaking in high school through his class friend, writer-director Guy Pigden. Together, they formed the production company, Pigville Productions. Through this company, they've collaborated on many projects. The most notable being the feature films I Survived a Zombie Holocaust in 2014 and Older, which is coming out this year. Harley starred as lead actors in both of these films. Harley is also a poet, and his poetry has received widespread attention and acclaim online due to his honest and confronting themes of his writing. This has led him to performing at TEDx, I'm going to butcher this name, Ruakura, in 2016. Of course, Mr. Harley Neville is also part of the Harley and Guy podcast. Before we bring Harley on, I want to show you the trailer for this awesome web series that he is in. It's called Emmy the Vegan. And I'm going to hit this button, and hopefully everything's going to go really well, and you guys will get to see this awesome trailer for this web series Harley produced and co-stars in. Here we go.
A vegan man, all I want.
I thought you'd at least be vegetarian.
A vegan man, all I want.
Meat breath. I mean, sure, I'm a strong, independent, feminist, eco-friendly, ultra-creative vegan warrior, but I'd also like...
A man.
A vegan man?
I just don't know if I can date...
A meat eater.
Yeah.
Warning. Only 99.98% vegan.
Actually, Matt's not vegan.
Well, I'm be curious. What the
Is this the vegan potluck? Hi, Sean.
Sean!
Sean the also vegan.
Only a man who's anti-meat will sample these delicious treats.
No exceptions.
A vegan man, a vegan man.
Oh, just some guy! Different to the one mentioned in that song. Sorry, I thought we were doing this. Never mind.
So that was the trailer for Emmy the Vegan. I'm going to bring Harley on right now. Harley, how you doing, sir?
Kia ora. Hello, I'm good, thanks.
That's good.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. It's great having you on. It's great having you on. Great trailer. I saw it, a couple of months ago, maybe, when it first came out.
Yeah.
And as a person who dated someone who was gluten-free, not the same thing as vegan, but I understand the turmoils and the tribulations of and it resonated with me. The trailer resonated with me. I saw all 7 episodes of Emmy the Vegan, and I'm like, wow, yeah, fantastic work.
Great. Well, yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm not actually vegan myself. But I am a bit of an ally of the ideology, and so I thought it was a great idea, something that could be made when that concept came to me, and when I was brought to me rather, the gluten-free is not quite the same, but we do mention it in the show. There is a gluten-free reference as well in there at one point as well. So I can see the comparison you're drawing, either those pain in the butt dietary restrictions of the people we love.
Yeah, and you feel guilty when you break the dietary restrictions. and there was one moment that Emmy, I think it's in the trailer, Emmy tells her date, meat breath. Yeah. Gluten breath. I got that. A lot. Gluten breath.
Yeah. Well, Emmy the Vegan is a sort of a quirky, reasonably wholesome, I think, wholesome musical comedy about a vegan woman who's looking for love in Auckland, and I'm really proud of it. It just came out a couple of days ago, and it's written by a vegan, but I don't feel like it's preachy, and it's not aimed at vegans specifically, really, And I'm not vegan, but I still think it's really funny. So, yeah, I'm very happy with how it's turned out. And it's nice that you've seen it as well, Andrew, because it's I don't always get interviewed by people who have actually seen what we're talking about. So you've actually watched it, the whole 7 seasons, so 7 episodes. It's great.
I watched the 7 episodes, and I do take some pride in actually reading the books of the guests who come on the show and actually consuming the content of the people who come on too.
Great.
Because I find it difficult to really ask intelligent questions unless I'm acquainted with the source material.
Yeah, makes sense. Does make sense.
Yeah, dude. So, so you were both producer and an actor.
Yeah, so I co-produced this along with Immi herself. So Immi Patterson is a friend of mine from high school, and I've been making movies for 20 years with my best friend, Guy Pigden, and we went to school together. We've been making movies under the name Pigville ever since high school. And as it happens, Immi also went to our high school, and this is in a different city. We're all from Dunedin, but we all live in Auckland now, and our lives sort of ended up here. And we'd been working on a different project with Immi already prior to this, and so we already had this existing friendship and this existing working relationship and so on, and so it just made sense really. And Immi had this idea for a show which was quirky and interesting, and she was obviously very passionate about it, and it was her concept, and basically she came to us and sort of said, well, maybe we could make this next. And obviously we thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. And as a producer, I saw, I wasn't motivated by the veganism thing, but I could see that Immi was very much motivated by the veganism. And that's what you need. You need somebody with some passion and enthusiasm. And so basically I, as a producer, I saw that it had a lot of potential to do very well. It had an ideologically driven sort of niche audience, and that's kind of what you want on YouTube. You want people, a small passionate audience that's really into it is better than a broad audience that's kind of like lukewarm on it. So you want these people, these sort of super fans. And so I looked at it as a concept and thought, well, this is going to take us a long time to make because it's 7 episodes and we're doing it for very little money, but I think it'll be worth it because it will have that niche audience and that that appeal online, hopefully, for that particular audience. And so that was kind of why I was keen to make it. That, and I also liked the role, and I liked the role as an actor. I mean, I liked the role as an actor that would be mine if we made this. And I thought the scripts were funny and all that type of thing. Plus, I didn't think it was too preachy or vegan-y, I thought that's the great thing about this series, I think, is that it's funny, but it's not trying to convert anybody, which I think is cool.
If anything, it talks about, at least this is my impression of it, it talks about the pitfalls of or the difficulties of getting into that lifestyle.
Yeah, I'd say it does. It's kind of self-aware and self-deprecating, and also because the co-writer, so Immi wrote it with Guy Pigden. Now, Guy's not a vegan either. So Guy and I are not vegan, Immi's vegan. And so it does have those elements of non-vegan, it's got that outside angle as well, where it's written by somebody who's not vegan. So I was a little bit hesitant or a little bit concerned about having the V word in the title, vegan, because I was wondering, well, is that going to scare off so many people who might watch a comedy web series normally, but they go, oh, it's all about food, or it's all about a diet, or it's all about, veganism, which I'm not interested in, or whatever. But I think we made the right choice in keeping the name in, because then at least people who want to watch it, people who are interested in that, they'll be able to find it for sure.
It's a really quirky title, and I think that's good. I think that's a hook for a lot of people, to tell you the truth.
That's good.
Yeah, especially with the name Immi. I've never heard that name before.
Yeah, it's. I assume it's short for Imogene. Imogene, but yeah, Immi. That's another thing I wondered about that. I was like, IMMI, Immi. Is that going to be difficult for people to remember or say? And it probably is a little bit. And I know that Immi said herself, she said, oh shit, we should have maybe called it like Amy the Vegan or something like that. Partly for that reason, but also partly because she realized suddenly that she is now the face of Emmy the Vegan and will be known as Emmy the Vegan all the time. And she's used her real name, and a lot of her real life sort of aspects of herself have made it into this character, and it's called Immi. And so it's going to be this difficult for her or for people to see the line between the real her and this crazy character.
Right. When I was dating, I'm in a relationship right now and have been for a couple of years. But when I was dating one,
whoa, bragging.
oh hey,
Humble brag. Lucky for
every
some.
oh well, I was lucky before the apocalypse started. But that's for in like 20, 30 minutes. We could talk about the apocalypse.
Okay.
But a way that I like to break the ice was to ask women about their date horror stories, right?
And then avoid all of those things.
And when I was watching Emmy the Vegan, it's like, oh, these seem to be some real life vegan dating horror stories.
Yeah.
And that I thought was real. People like real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So if people want to see it, if they're wondering what we're talking about, they can go to YouTube and search for Immi the Vegan. It's just youtube.com/Immi the Vegan, and Immi is IMMI. So Immi the Vegan. So youtube.com/Immi the Vegan, and you'll be able to see the whole series, which just came out a couple of days ago, and you'll be able to tell us what you think, dear listener or viewer.
All right.
Yeah.
So as a producer, what did you have to do in organizing the web series?
Well, we started with a proof of concept teaser. So basically, we had to start with a crowdfunding campaign. That was the first place to begin. So to do a crowdfunding campaign to raise the money to shoot the season, we thought, well, we need to shoot ourselves with our own money, a proof of concept pilot episode, which we can use to help generate interest and hopefully get people donating to us to make a full season. And so we did that. We shot, it was just a one night shoot, but a full day, a full day shoot that we did this one episode called, it's online, it's called Episode 0, and it's kind of a precursor to the real season. And it's just this little proof of concept of who the characters are and what the humor might be like. And so we shot that, which in itself was, a reasonably big thing to organize, in the sense that you've got to have the cast and the crew and the location, and everyone's got to show up and work for free and all that type of thing. And we did it, and it turned out great. The episode turned out great. And we did the crowdfunding campaign next, and and that was, again, heaps of work. Crowdfunding campaigns are so much work. It's not just like put your hand up and the internet gives you money. It's like you are working for that money, and you actually, if you break it down to your hourly rate, if you don't raise a lot of money, it's actually, you're not getting paid very much to work. You'd almost be better off to just put your own money in it than just to use other people's money. But anyway, we raised about the total budget was about 10,000 New Zealand dollars, which is very, very little. And I think that an American dollar is about, I think a New Zealand dollar is I think one American dollar is about $1.60 New Zealand.
Okay.
Or so. So I don't know, it was like $5,000 US, somewhere around there, for the whole season. And so we raised that money online and through a couple of other sponsors and donors and that type of thing. Don't worry about that. I'll fix that.
Okay. That's the magical live broadcasting right there.
This is an issue I'm having with it turns off every half hour, and I haven't figured out how to stop it yet.
All right.
But I'll get there.
Sure.
But so we raised it, we shot the money, we got the money, we did it. And then basically after we shot it, it sat in post-production purgatory for 2 years, pretty much, because we shot these episodes 2 years ago, and we shot the proof of concept episode close to 3 years ago. And so we shot these, we sat in post-production for so long, because the problem is when you're not paying people, post-production is very, very, very slow, because it's a lot of work. It's quite a thankless task, a lot of the post-production stuff. As an actor, you can work for free and know that your face is going to be on it. But as a sound mixer or something like that, if you're working for free, you're kind of like, well, if I do a really good job as a sound mixer, then nobody's going to notice my work, because that's the point of my job, is that nobody's going to notice how good the sound is, because it's so good that you're not thinking about the sound, you're thinking about the story. And so it's kind of a more thankless task. And so it's more difficult to get, good people to work for free or for very, very cheap. And if they do agree to work for free or for cheap, it takes time. And that was what we opted for. We went for a really great sound mixer in this particular case, Envy Studios, and they did a really awesome job. But of course, you know, that and the other post-production, it's all about time and working around other people's schedules and doing things yourself and all of that type of stuff. So so yeah, it was $10,000 was the budget of it. But if you were to actually, when you look at it on screen, it's not a $10,000 production. It's just that a lot of really talented people worked for free or for cheap, and we shot it for $10,000. But really, you know, if you were paying those people, it would have been more like $100,000 production, because it's 68 minutes worth of content, which is quite a lot for $10,000.
That's an incredible amount of content for that little money. You guys did a great job. Yeah.
I'm really
definitely.
happy with the final polish of it as well, and how everything seems very sort of quite professional. It doesn't feel like a student film. It doesn't feel like a $10,000 thing, you know. So yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Definitely. And you know, talking about the sound quality, there is a lot of music in the web series.
Yeah, it's a musical.
And yeah, it's a music.
I'd never made a musical before, so that was a whole new experience as well.
And I thought the sound was fantastic.
Great. Yes. Well, I agree, and that's a lot of that as well is to do with Immi, and how talented she is as a musician. She was in a band for a long time called Georgian Queen, and we used all of the Georgian Queen music for the songs that she's not singing, but just in the soundtrack, that's all Georgian Queen music. And so, so yeah, she's an experienced singer-songwriter who's been around for a long time doing that type of thing. But what so she did a great job, and I think that those songs really up the quality of the production and make it more interesting and quirky and zany and so on. But what's interesting about Immi is that she had never acted in anything before this. This was her acting debut. She'd never acted in anything before. So she was a singer-songwriter and a writer, but not an actor. She doesn't have an agent. She's never done much in the way of acting. And this was her first time. And she smashed it. She totally nailed it, I think.
She has a presence on screen.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I hope
yeah,
so.
she had, so. and probably her years of performing on stage helped that quite a bit.
Yeah, you would have to assume that would definitely, you know, work in your favor, you know, because at least you're comfortable enough, you know, standing in front of people and all that type of thing.
Yeah, you cannot underestimate how important it is just to be comfortable in front of the camera. If you have that, then that's a lot. It isn't everything, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it's something, and it puts the audience at ease, because if you're at ease, they're at ease.
True enough, man. So I have to ask you, you play a character, Matt. Now, how much of you is Matt?
Well, look, Matt is really, I mean, quite a lot, really, I would say. I'm not so much an aspiring vegan, really, although I am legitimately an ally of the ideology, and I feel like if humanity has a future, it's probably a vegan future or some other type of breakthrough. I don't think we can keep going the way we are and expect environmentally to have somewhere nice to live. So I'm definitely an ally of the ideology, but not actually actively trying to be a vegan myself. But I do think that yeah, Matt is there's plenty of Harley in Matt. I would say Matt's my character. And I can't sing, just like Matt can't sing. And then there's also things like the poetry stuff that's kind of obviously based off the fact that in real life, you know, I've done poetry and done poetry things and released poetry videos, and my character Matt is an aspiring poet. So a lot of it is based on the real Harley, but I didn't write that or put that in myself. That was Guy and Immi writing it, but with me in mind. So that's often the way. Yeah, that's often the way it works with Pigville, which is the name that Guy and I make films under. Pigville, Guy Pigden, Harley Neville, Pigden, Neville, Pigville. And nice. So we've been oftentimes with our productions, characters are written with me in mind. So I guess what that means is I end up playing different versions of myself time and time again. But that's okay, because I'm good at playing myself. So
yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say hello to people in chat.
Okay.
Chris from the Daily Atheist Morning Show. What's up, Chris?
Okay.
I co-host a show with Chris on Tuesday mornings. Cool. Dr. Mordecai and the Blazing Wizard Pope was here. I don't know if he's still here. He's moderating other shows that are going on right now.
Right.
But it's good to have everyone in the chat. that's in the chat. And it's great for you
Yeah,
guys to be here.
thanks for coming. I'm glad you're interested.
You know, you have a foil, you have a nemesis in
Ah.
in the show Emmy the Vegan, and his name is Sean, and he strikes me as the anti-Matt.
Yeah, he's sort of everything that Matt isn't. He can sing. He, you know, he's a vegan and he's not struggling with it. He's popular. He's got a full head of hair. He's taller than me. He's good at his job and he's popular at work. You know, he's everything that my character Matt would like to be, and he's everything that Matt imagines Immi the Vegan would want in a man. Yeah, and so this is a problem for Matt because Matt is interested in Emmy the Vegan, and that's what a lot of the show is about, that unrequited love, and developing that and seeing how that works. And so yeah, Sean is kind of everything that Matt would like to be and everything that probably Emmy wants.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, and not giving anything away, it's almost as if all of Matt's fears are kind of happen.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all there, right?
They are all there.
Yeah, all Matt's fears are there.
And Matt works in a library.
Yeah.
And a couple of moments I'm thinking, you know, because I know you guys have done horror movies and you like the genre, and it's like, oh, I see that there. Right. Well played, gentlemen.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I liked about the show as well, is that it's a little bit genre bending, in the sense that it does have this little kind of horror. I mean, it's pretty, you know, it's not particularly scary, I don't think, but it's got this horror aspect to it. It's got this musical aspect. It's got the comedy, and there's a few different little bits and bobs in there. It's got, you know, it's got this romance and stuff. So yeah, I really like that about the show as well, that it does have that horror stuff. And I agree that this library where my character works, there is this horror aspect to it, as you say. And when I watch that, I kind of go, yeah, I can totally see that we need to make more horror stuff, because we're good at horror stuff. I like comedy as well, but you know, I feel like we need to make a bit more horror stuff, because our horror things always do really well, and people are you know, interested in it, and they go you know, to festivals, and we've got established relationships with these horror film festivals. And so we need to do a little bit more of that horror type stuff, which is kind of an issue, because this is a bit of a tangent, but our next feature film, Older, is a drama romance, and it's been shot and it's finished, and we've got a sales agent in LA, and we have been told that it's coming out next month. And we haven't really announced it sort of properly, officially, because we don't know exactly when it's going to be, but it's going to be on Amazon Prime, and it's going to be next month. And by the sounds,
that's freaking huge. That's great, dude. Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah. It's very exciting. And so that's great, because we've been working on it for years and years and years and years. And that's all very, very exciting. And I'm really happy about that. But the thing is that our first feature film was a horror. And we also did a really successful short horror film, and we also did a horror web series. And as a result, we've established these relationships in horror kind of festivals and horror circles and stuff. And now the idea behind making a drama romance was to show that we can do something else. But now that we've finished it, you kind of realize, well, who do we even send this to? We don't know drama romance people. We don't know drama romance festivals. You know, there's not even such a thing I don't know of as a drama romance festival. And so we've sort of maybe we should have picked the lane and stuck in it type thing. Picked the lane and stuck to it. But you know, this is cool though. I'm still excited.
You know, it's
makes
strange.
It
yeah, there's, unlike other professions like lawyer, salesperson, maybe, you know, there's a clear path, a stairway, a ladder that you can climb. In the arts, it's much more ambiguous.
Yeah, there's a few different ways to get there.
Oh yeah, true enough. So I have to ask you, is there sweet Amazon money that's going to be fueling more horror projects? Is that?
Well, I hope so. It does still depend how well it does, because you know, it can be on Amazon, but people still need to want to watch it. Otherwise, I don't believe we make much in the way of money. But yeah, I mean, the idea would be to keep making stuff, and the dream really is to get self-sustaining, more or less, where Guy and I don't need to go to work to pay the bills. we can just have each project pay for the next project, you know, which is kind of the,
Right.
you know, the goal. And so, yeah, the idea here would be with Immi the Vegan, hopefully it gets some advertising revenue online, and that helps us fund our next thing. And then with Older, hopefully that just generates a wee passive income, and once a month we're getting in some sort of income from that, and you know, combine it with our other projects and our Patreon and our podcasts and all that type of thing. And the goal is basically to make enough money for two grown-ass men to live off the internet, and spend our time, you know, creating content. That's what we want. That's
Right.
the end game.
Right. The
Yeah.
end game is to live your dreams
Yeah.
and to do the thing that you
And get
want to
paid
do.
for
That,
it, yeah.
right. And that you get paid, and paid in a way that you don't have to live in a cardboard box.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So it is going quite well. I mean, things are picking up, and we've got so much stuff coming out. But I think that probably the big issue on our end is the business side of things. You know, we need sort of a business minded producer type person to kind of come in and kind of point us in the right direction, and kind of streamline our taxes and our accounts and all of these types of things, because I think that'll make a big difference. But you know, we're working on it.
Sure.
At the moment, we're doing the creative stuff well, and just got to work on the business stuff a bit more.
I can see that, because they are different skill sets, aren't they?
Yeah, and I'm somewhere in the middle, but more leaning towards the creative side than the business side.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm with
Yeah.
you on that, brother. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, just yeah, I can make content. I can make people laugh. How am I going to squeeze a penny out of that? I don't know. I just
Yeah,
put up content, do work, and try
see
to
what
do the
works.
best work I can.
Yeah.
You know, I found it when I was watching Emmy the Vegan. I thought it was funny that Guy had a little walk on.
Yeah. So Guy Pigden, the co-writer and director, we like to try and get him to cameo, you know, whenever we can. He has a little cameo in I Survived the Zombie Holocaust as well. And also he actually plays the lead character in Older. So he's the main character in Older. And so he's my best friend, as I mentioned, and we've been making movies for all this time. And, you know, usually what we do is we both act in things. We'll shoot a skit or something, and we'll just be acting across from each other. But as the projects are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, it's getting harder and harder and harder for us to be a producer, be a director, be a writer, but also to be the actors in it as well, and do a good job and do all those jobs well. And that's the thing about acting, is sometimes you got to know when to let it go, and let somebody else who will do a better job take that role, even though it'd be so much more fun to do it yourself, or so much cooler. But if you can't do it justice, then you know, you got to sort of relinquish it a little bit. But so that's why Guy always makes an appearance, at least. And so yeah, he's in Emmy the Vegan. He has a wee cameo appearance as a hot dog salesman, who's selling hot dogs to raise money for the animals.
That's great.
Yeah, and he's trying to get me to buy a hot dog, but of course I'm an aspiring vegan, and I'm desperately trying not to eat meat.
I think we lost your visual again, Mr.
Oh,
Harley.
okay. Oh, that's weird. Oh, I might have kicked my. Hang on.
All right. No worries.
Here we go.
Once again, it is the magic of live shows.
Yeah, it'll come back. Hang on.
Otherwise, we can just say, hey, I'll just play the trailer again, maybe. I don't know.
No, give it a second. They'll be okay. This is
All right.
they love live television. This is I think I've just kicked. I think all I did was I kicked my camera.
Is this part of the horror movie? Is this like, you know, you're doing some kind of show online and then you get horribly killed?
Hey,
oh, hey,
I'm
there
back.
you go.
Yeah, I think I kicked the plug under the desk, unfortunately, and kicked the power off my camera.
I have to, in the setup that I have to keep my legs within a certain zone.
Yeah, the
Otherwise,
safe zone.
The safe zone, right. And so the longest conversations I have are about an hour. And so I can be here in the safe zone comfortably.
Yeah.
Anything after that, it starts getting in my body, you know, because I'm an old dude, Harley. You know, and so my body starts creaking up. But so, yeah, right, I can do this, keep it in the safe zone.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm feeling the old dude body creak thing as well.
Right. You know, I want to say too that the last episode, or the 7th episode of this season of Emmy the Vegan, I thought was great. It was a great twist.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I didn't see it coming.
Cool. Good. Yes. Well, obviously, people should go out and watch it before we spoil the ending. So we won't sort of
Exactly.
talk to them too much about it. But yes, that was that we sort of, it was written one way, but then when it came time to shoot it, we shot it the way it was written and decided that we actually wanted to try something else, try a different way of ending the show. And we shot this other way of ending it, and we actually decided that we liked that more, and that was the version that we ended up using. But essentially it was an improv on the day. It was just a different idea when we were filming, and we didn't plan on ending the show in this particular way, but it just, we thought we'd give it a go, and then it worked, and it worked better than the original ending. And so we went with that, and we're glad we did. And the other day, we had the world premiere. It was a cinema screening, and it was almost a full house, and it was a great turnout, and everyone was on board. And at the end, sort of at that moment that you're referring to, the audience clapped and cheered and was happy with that. They were happy with that, and we've received a bit of positive feedback about the way it ended. And so yes, I encourage people to go out and have a watch, and make sure you watch right through till the end of episode 7 and check it out and see if you think if you like the ending.
I like it even more now that I know it was just improv at the last minute.
Yeah, good. Yeah. There's the thing about this show is it's low budget, and there's a lot of there's some elements of making it up as you go as well.
Right. Yeah, with a low budget, people working for free. How long was from actual shooting days? How long? How many days did that take up shooting the series?
So I think it was about it was 2 years ago, so I can't remember exactly, but I think it was a 3-week shoot. I think it was about 3 weeks. And at that time, I had just quit my salary position to go freelance full time. And the goal here was to make a living out of creating content full time. And also I'd work freelance as well, because I work in film and TV anyway, but I used to be on salary. And so I quit the salary, and it was a sort of a tumultuous time in my life where I was trying this brand new thing. And the first thing I did after quitting my job was we shot Emmy the Vegan. So I had I quit my job, then I had about 2 weeks of kind of prep time, and then I think we had a 3-week shoot. So basically my first 5 or 6 weeks of being freelance, I actually wasn't getting paid for any of the work I was doing. I was just working on this thing, completely for free. But I'm glad I did, obviously, because this is the whole point. The whole point is to create content like this and get it out, and hopefully generate income from it. And that's more important than going to work, in my opinion, because that other work is not what my dreams are. That other work is just my way of paying the bills.
To pay the bills, exactly. Well, I have to tell you, it looks like it's paying off. You're not skeletal. I mean, we just talked a couple of months ago, and so there's been no dramatic weight loss from what I've seen. You seem to be doing well.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, well, I haven't starved to death just yet, and it's pretty good here. We obviously we'll talk about COVID in a little bit and stuff, I guess, but we had during lockdown, I had about I didn't even know how long lockdown was in the end, but about 2 months worth of being kind of trapped in my house by myself. But luckily, the New Zealand government had the wage subsidy, which was a thing. Basically, it was money to keep you alive for the entire duration of the lockdown. And so yeah, I didn't starve to death, thanks to the New Zealand government's response to COVID, luckily.
I don't think we can not talk about COVID right now.
No. But before we get to COVID, I did see you had some questions about the Eastern Front of World War II.
Oh my God, Harley, this is the third time we've talked. We talked once when I was doing the Naked Diner podcast. We did an episode of Best Advice Ever, which was only like 5 months ago. I'm watching Immi the Vegan. All of a sudden, there's like this whole stuff about the Eastern Front, and I'm like, is this how have I talked to this man this long without talking about World War II?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you got to know the right questions to ask. Why would you even know I was into it until then? But now you do. So in the show, my character Matt works at a library, and he's a World War II enthusiast. And so he creates poetry, but he works in a library, and he is a World War II enthusiast. And his poems are some of his poems are World War II themed. Front. And so the joke here really for me was just that it's such a nerdy niche specific thing for him to be into, the Eastern Front of World War II. And that was based off the fact that in real life, I read a lot about the Eastern Front of World War II, and Guy, when he was writing the script, wrote that in because he thinks that's funny that I've got this nerdy interest in World War II.
Well, unless you're Russian, right? I mean, I imagine in the Commonwealth countries, as well as here in the States, it's all Western Europe, Battle of Britain, maybe a smattering of North Africa, right? But the Eastern Front was crazy. How many people did the Russians lose? They lost like 22 million people or something in the conflict.
Yeah, something like that. And it was, I mean, really, that was kind of where the majority of the battle was fought. I read some stat somewhere saying that something like 80% of the German ground forces that were lost in World War II were lost on the Eastern Front. So the other 20% was split up amongst the US, the Britain, the UK, the Kiwis, the Australians. All of those people were only responsible for 20% or so of the overall ground casualties of the Wehrmacht, and then the rest were on the Eastern Front. And it's like, wow, as somebody who comes from a Western country, I always kind of thought World War II was like, America versus Germany and Britain versus Germany, but you kind of I didn't really realize that actually pretty much all of the action, the majority of that war was actually on the Eastern Front against Russia.
I have to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Could the USSR, that was, the nation back then, would they have won without any assistance from us?
Yeah, I think they probably would have.
I think
it just would have. I just think it would have taken longer. I think it would have taken several more years. It would have drawn out the war a lot more. But I still think they absolutely could have won because the Germans didn't have enough oil, really. So that was kind of the big problem. The war was for oil. That's why they went to Russia, was to go and get get into the Caucasus and get the oil and all that type of stuff, which was something that they needed because there's not that much oil on mainland like continental Europe. There's not that many places to get it, so they've got to get it from somewhere, either Africa or Russia, and they chose both, but they had a good go at Russia, and they didn't get it. So they probably would have run out of oil. And I imagine they would have lost eventually. The Germans would have lost eventually either way. It sort of seems like an unwinnable war. He should have sued for peace after he had taken half of Russia and all of Europe, and he should have just said, that's when he should have said, all right, I own all of this stuff now. I'm going to sue for peace on great terms, on my terms, and then who knows what might have happened. But he didn't do that. He kept going. Got greedy.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm kind of like I can't say I'm a Stalin fan, but I am a fan of Russian history. Just purely armchair stuff. Don't have a degree.
Me too.
But
me too.
It intrigues me, and Stalin was his own type of monster, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm still kind of learning about the Russian side of that conflict. I've read quite a few autobiographies and so on, but they're all from from German frontline soldiers and so on. I haven't read any from any Russian frontline soldiers yet. I've read some accounts and so on, but not actual full books about it. But that actually reminds me to bring it back to Emmy the Vegan. So that reminds me that my character
Matt.
I was trying to think. So, of course, I know my Matt was the character's name, but he gives a book recommendation. That's what I was trying to remember. He gives a book recommendation. He rehearses giving a book recommendation about World War II, and in that book recommendation, I say. Excellent choice, sir, but have you considered Blood Red Snow, a harrowing first-hand account of a sniper on the Eastern Front of World War II? And but actually, at the time, I really wanted to read that book, but I hadn't read Blood Red Snow. And we shot it, and then I read the book after the shoot. And it turns out, I'm very embarrassed, it turns out that Blood Red Snow is not about a sniper on the Eastern Front, it's about a machine gunner on the Eastern Front.
Very different roles.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like any World War II nerds out there that know about Blood Red Snow will say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Well,
you can blame it on you can blame that on the guy who wrote it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah, you could always just fabricate this entire argument that you had with Guy about,
Yeah.
but Guy was set,
Yeah.
and so you know, I
Yeah,
mean, he's a
it was
director.
totally me. It was totally my fault.
Right. So, you know, let's bounce over to COVID again. So,
Okay.
dude, what's it like? What was the response? You know, because I'm here in the States, it's basically still pretty crazy over here in many
Yeah.
parts of the country. I'm sure that unfortunately our tragedy is over
Yeah.
there
Absolutely.
on the
Yeah.
news.
Mm.
So tell me about the New Zealand response and what life is there like now.
Well, I'm very happy, and this has been great for my mental health and probably the mental health of the whole nation. Really, is that when all this was unfolding, you know, when this all sort of began in March, February, it was sort of it was very scary, and you don't know what's going to happen with the world, and you look at what's going on in America, and you look at what's going on in the UK, and you look at what's going on in all these places, and you sort of think, oh no, you know, like this is a tragedy. What's gonna happen here? How's this going to work? How long is this going to go on for? But we were very, very lucky because we had a competent government in at the time, which was not guaranteed. We have our share of incompetent, you know, politicians as well. And so, but we were very, very lucky because we had Jacinda Ardern as Prime Minister and the Labour Party, which is a good party, and they were in charge. And so they listened to the scientists, and they did they cracked down within, well, I'm not sure, but very soon after our first few cases, we cracked down, closed the border, and then went into a full lockdown. And this lockdown was everybody just had to go home. You were not allowed to go out. There were no bars were open, no anything like that was open. You could go for a walk every day, but you couldn't drive somewhere to go for a walk. So if you wanted to go, say, to the beach or for a bushwalk or something like that, and you couldn't walk to the beach, then you could not go. And if you were driving and the police saw you, they could pull you over and go, where are you off to? And if you go, I'm off to the beach, they'll go, well, that's non-essential, so go the hell home. And so the idea was that if you can drive to the beach, you go for a walk, then you're going to be using petrol. And if you're using petrol, you're going to have to go to the gas station. If you're going to the gas station, you're going to be touching the pumps, and that's a potential source of transmission. You know, that's an unnecessary source of transmission so that you can go for a walk. You know, just go for a walk in your neighborhood instead. And so that was kind of how it was handled. It was a strict lockdown, and it was the people got behind it. You know, New Zealand understood, they got behind it, and I was really happy to see that. There was, of course, you know, we have our share of anti-vaxxers and other idiots and you know, like wallies, but you know, luckily their voices were not loud enough over here to, or you know, not sensible enough over here to kind of convert anybody, you know, and it kind of worked. People actually adhered to the rules of the lockdown, and then we did it in a structured, kind of leveled way. And that was the other great thing about it, was that Jacinda was very, very open with the communication. And so she would do daily press conferences every day. We would do these press conferences with the latest information, and then at night, I don't know when the poor woman would sleep, because then at night she would jump on and do a live FaceTime on her Facebook page, and she'd be in her pajamas, you know, in bed or you know, on the couch at her house or whatever, and talking to the nation just casually, just saying, cool guys. So, and this was a more informal thing. So that, you know, you got the press conference with the press and all that. That's one thing, but then this was just a casual chat where she had sort of explained what was going on from her perspective and so on. And so as a nation, we felt informed and we understood what was happening. And so she said, cool, well, it's going to be level 4 first, which is going to be 4 weeks of not leaving the house. Then you're going to go into level 3, which is going to have a few more, you know, restrictions lifted, then down to level 2, and then down to level 1, which is essentially just a normal open, or almost just normal. So yeah, we felt informed, and it was good, and so as a result, we all adhered to these rules, and it worked. It totally worked, and we wore masks, and not only essential workers could leave the house during the lockdown. So if you worked in the supermarket, or if you were a doctor, or you know, one of these essential people, then you could go to work. But otherwise, you just had time off. And the great thing was that if you applied for it, the government would give you this wage subsidy, which meant that you got like most of your pay, or not most of your pay, but a certain amount. It was about $585 a week, every week for 20 weeks. 20 weeks if you applied for the extension. So the first one was 12 weeks and the second one was 8 weeks. So, and it's about $585 a week for 20 weeks. So, it's, I mean, we're talking actually quite a lot of money. And we all got that. Anyone who applied for it basically got it and got to keep living even though they didn't have any work. So yeah, that was kind of how that went.
Good. So what level are you guys at right now?
I think we're at level 1 still, because I don't think we're at like level 0. I think level 1 is keeping the borders closed, basically. So the borders, if you want to come here, you pretty much can't. You only returning Kiwis can come, or people with a special exception, so an exception visa. So returning Kiwis can come over, but they've got to do a 2-week quarantine, and it's about and they've got to stay in a hotel for 2 weeks. And we've had a couple of scandals because a couple of scallywags have come home and then snuck out of the hotel, and then one of them, a couple of them actually came back positive. They snuck out, then they got back, then they tested positive, and it's obviously a huge scandal because we went through all of this together, and now these lazy expats who went overseas, they'd not been paying tax to our government. They'd just been having the time of their lives overseas, doing whatever, while we're all here slaving away in New Zealand, paying taxes and contributing to the community. And then they come home and then they do this, and they didn't even do the lockdown, and they sneak out. I tell you what, New Zealand was not very happy with these people. And there's one guy who snuck out of the hotel so that he'd go to the supermarket to get a pie and a V. A V is an energy drink, and a pie is, well, you know what a pie is, but American pies are different to New Zealand pies. But anyway, a pie and a V is what he snuck out for. But apparently there was a 50 minutes that he's refusing to say where he was. And so I think he probably maybe snuck off to visit a woman of the night or something, perhaps. A lady of, I mean, he doesn't want to tell us about it. I don't know, but that's a concern, right? Because if he did sneak out, because he tested positive the next day. So if he did sneak out and he did go and visit a lady of the night, and that lady of the night was a busy person, she a super spreader, so to speak. She could potentially spread the virus quite fast. So we'll be waiting to see, because that was within 2 weeks. That was not 2 weeks ago. So we don't actually know yet. Has this idiot created a big new cluster in downtown central Auckland? He went to a busy downtown central Auckland supermarket. What a moron. So yeah, right. If we find him, there'll be a good lynching, a good old fashioned lynching. Yeah.
So in New Zealand, you're at level 1. Your barriers are, you're bound,
borders,
country borders are still closed.
Yeah.
Pubs open?
Yep. So other than that, other than the borders, domestically, internally, we're not being affected really day to day. So we don't wear masks. We believe in masks. We understand that masks work. We're not denying that masks work. We're just not being asked to, because as far as we're aware, there is no community transmission within New Zealand. So we don't need the masks. Our pubs are open. Everything's open. It's just life as normal. You go around, you go to parties, you can hug people, all that stuff. I just recently did 2 sold out shows. I work for a film festival, and I did 2 sold out shows, managing, sort of hosting and running these short film nights, and they're both sold out. And then I had to catch a plane to go to the second one, which was down in Wellington. So I was on this, I was catching planes. There's people in there in this, this plane, and we're all put in there like sardines, and then go to the sold out show. And then I came back up, and then I had the world premiere of Emmy the Vegan, which had sort of this 100 or so people in a cinema. And yeah, just life goes on where, it's just life is normal over here, which is really good. I don't want to be smug about it though, because like I said, we have our share of anti-vaxxers and hotel skippers, quarantine breakers, and so we could easily end up regressing if it happens, but hopefully it doesn't. But yeah.
Wow, I am super envious. I was just talking to my girlfriend today, and 2 of our local pubs just closed down forever.
Yeah, right.
Pubs that have been open since I was of age.
Yeah.
And gone forever because of the downturn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the same even here. Even with us being open, there's still a big downturn, because New Zealand is tourism was our second biggest industry after like dairy and sort of sheep and farming type exports. Our second biggest industry was tourism, and now that
Yeah.
entire industry has been taken away. And so all of those people that were paying for hotels and Airbnbs and going to the pubs and the restaurants and all these international students and international everything, they're all no longer here, no longer spending money. And so we've got this big gap. So it has affected our economy as well, obviously. But and so we've had a few places shut down too. But I do think that we're going to find a way to fill those gaps, and that actually a lot of people are going to be getting rich right now. I'm not sure if you watched, I'm not sure if I said this on the previous interview that I did with you, but I'm not sure if you watched what's it called? Game of Thrones. Did you watch that?
I have not. You've
not watched
seen
it.
that. No.
That's disgusting, Andrew. You got to sort it out.
I know. You can shame me. Feel free to shame me.
It's fine. You don't have to have seen it for this to work anyway. So basically, in the show, there's a character called Littlefinger, and a piece of he's talking about there's this chaos because they don't know who is going to be the king, and so there's this chaos everywhere. And Littlefinger says, "Chaos is not a pit, it's a ladder." And and that really stuck with me when I heard him say that. Chaos is not a pit, it's a ladder. And it made me realize that if you are the right type of person who's keeping an eye out for opportunities, chaos is a ladder. You can find ladders within this chaos to make money and to get ahead in some way. So so I've been sort of trying to keep an eye out for these potential ladders caused by COVID. And so I think it's things like investing, for example, is an example of as soon as there's this big downturn, that's a great time to be putting money on if you're assuming that the market's going to go up. That would be an example of a ladder caused by COVID, or the wage subsidy is a ladder offered by COVID, these types of things. And so the point behind that was that a lot of people will be getting rich, I think, and people will be filling this gap that was the money that was coming from tourism. I'm sure we'll find another way to kind of get that working.
The important thing is that you have a functioning government and a functioning society. So you'll come out of this, and you are coming out of this in a healthy state, both physically, financially. Other countries aren't like that. I got a couple of comments from the chat. Soundspeed, I guess he must be from New Zealand. He hadn't even thought of the possibility that this gentleman visited a lady of the night during the missing gap of time.
He hadn't considered that. That's David Peterson, I believe. He's a soundie, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out to David. So when I say a soundie, I mean he records sound on film sets. And so that sort of works quite nicely with what I was going to say, which was just that one of the ladders for New Zealand that is caused by COVID is potentially New Zealand might become a bit of a filmmaking utopia, because we can film here, we can film intimate kissing scenes and all these things, but also in terms of insurance, productions can get insurance to film here because there's no COVID. And so a lot of this is kind of an industry insider scoop, but a lot of the people I'm talking to, casting agents and other people involved in the film and TV industry in New Zealand, are saying that actually they're getting really busy because there's all these ads and other things for international brands that they don't want to film over in America. They can't film in America. They can't do whatever they're doing and wherever they're doing it because they can't get insurance for their productions. Whereas if they just outsource it to New Zealand, we can film here. There's no restrictions on any of the filming, and also our dollar is weaker than the American dollar, and that type of thing. So you can get your production shot in New Zealand for and cheaper and with no issues. So I do suspect that, and it's looking like hopefully New Zealand's going to be a bit of a filmmaking utopia. So we've got Avatar. James Cameron is here now, and the Avatar sequels are being shot here. The Lord of the Rings TV show is being shot here, and so there's some pretty big productions happening at the moment, which is great. So what I'm hearing, the tourism thing.
So what I'm hearing from you, Harley, that whenever the borders open again, I can sleep on your couch.
Come on over. Come on over. Yeah. Now, I don't know. Speaking of opening the borders, though, this was one interesting concept. So I'm very happy that we closed the borders. I think that I'm really, really happy with how our government has responded, and I'm really happy with how things are being done. But there is an idea. I read sort of an article that I thought was an interesting concept that said that what's going to happen next? You know, like what happens for the next few years? What happens if if the wider world doesn't get this sorted and New Zealand remains tightly closed and isolationist, and yet the rest of the world, okay, sure, you guys, a bunch of your people die, but in terms of the economy, you guys are still trading with each other, you're still traveling between countries and all that type of thing, you know, in a year or two, you know, like imagine if we kind of essentially, if you guys just give up on trying to contain it, you know, what kind of happens to our wee country at the bottom of the world that has locked out everybody else? You know, do we become sort of the North Korea of the South Pacific because we're an isolationist country now and we're not letting all these people in? What's going to happen? And then what's going to happen if, because this is kind of what I think might happen with COVID, is that essentially it'll keep spreading and virtually everyone will get it, but that the strength of it will go down. It won't really be so deadly. And the reason why is because it'll evolve to spread very easily, but not kill its hosts. Because obviously if it kills its hosts, then it doesn't keep spreading. So it's much better if it doesn't make you sick at all, but spreads to everyone. And that's why it came from a bat, you know, because bats don't really get too negatively affected by viruses, or not as much as other people. So they can have a whole bunch of viruses and it doesn't affect them. And these viruses are spreading amongst the bat, you know, population, but not killing them off. And that's a successful virus, right? So this might evolve to be basically less deadly. And when that happens, you guys will all have it. It'll be less deadly, and we'll be down here, and we will have committed to a couple of years worth of isolationism and this lockdown and all that stuff. It's going to be very difficult politically to say, well, screw it, we'll just let everybody in now, and we'll just let the virus in now. So how long? I mean, this could be a decade, you know, before we open the borders again, you know, unless we get a vaccine. But even if you get a vaccine, how do you give that to 8 billion people?
Yeah. No, all freaking complicated and at times horrifying questions, Harley. Right now, you know, I'm an atheist, but I do talk about faith in the sense that when I think it's a good bet on something, I think that, you know, I have faith in it. So a good government, a stable society, call me crazy, and an educated society, and a society that feels overall safe, call me crazy, but I think good decisions will be made in the long term.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I do think you're right. It is an election year for us, so we'll see what happens. But fortunately, the opposition party is a bit of a dumpster fire. So it's okay. They're constantly changing leaders, and they're just not very competent. So I don't think we'll lose the Labour government this year. But it is an election year, and you just never know. I mean, I never expected Trump to win. I never expected the first, you know, the most powerful nation in the world. I did not expect the most powerful nation in the world to elect a reality TV billionaire, or, you know, supposed billionaire. I just never saw that coming, because this is the top job in the world, basically. I just could not believe that Donald Trump, he's not even a politician. How does someone who's not a politician, that is sort of testament to the fact that the system is broken. If you can just buy your way in, if you can just be rich enough and a reality TV star and buy your way in, and you're not even a politician with a career in politics, into the top job in the whole country, which is effectively the top job in the world because it's the leader of the free world. Yeah, it's crazy. It's madness. So I guess what I'm saying is that you never know what might happen. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups.
That's fantastic. Horrible and fantastic and true. I think maybe George Carlin said something like that.
Yeah, probably. That's probably exactly where I lifted it from.
Right. So Soundspeed, one of our last questions, since we're getting close to our time. He wants to know, what do you think of the Enemy of the Gates film?
Yeah. Now, I didn't actually watch it, and the reason why was because, I mean, I just kind of never got around to it, but it didn't look that good to me, and I kind of heard things about it being not very historically accurate, you know, having like the Russian blocking detachments, like gunning down their own men when they retreat, and sort of like basically playing up to all the kind of Western stereotypes of what the Red Army was actually like, and saying like they had like 5 guys with 1 rifle, and and
Yeah.
that they would gun down their own troops and stuff. And obviously some of these things are true and they happened, but it's silly to kind of portray it that way. So I never actually watched it, but I have seen bits and pieces of it. But if you want to see a good Eastern Front series about World War II on the Eastern Front, look up oh fuck, what's it called? Generation War, not to be mistaken with Generation Kill. Generation Kill is an American one set in the Middle East. Generation War is a German one set on the Eastern Front of World War II, and it's in German with subtitles, but it's really high production values. It's it's like Saving Private Ryan type production values, or Band of Brothers maybe would be a better example. Band of Brothers. So it's kind of the German Band of Brothers, Generation War, and it was really good. It was really good. Not quite as good as Band of Brothers, which is obviously amazing.
Right. So I'll check that out. I'll put it on I wrote it down, and
Absolutely.
I did hear about it. Actually, it's rattling around somewhere in the back of my head. I remember hearing something about it, and with your recommendation, I'll check it out, dude.
Yeah, no,
That's great.
definitely worth a watch.
So, Harley, where can people find you online?
All right. So I guess the first thing people should do is they should go and search for Immi the Vegan on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. It's on all 3, whichever tickles your fancy. YouTube, you can watch YouTube. Well, you can watch the whole series on all of them, actually. So Immi the Vegan is the place to look for that, is the name to look for there. And then if you wanted to find my podcast, if you're interested in podcasts, which I assume people are, if they're kind of watching and listening to this, you can go and search for the Guy and Harley podcast. And I make a podcast with Guy Pigden, my best friend and co-creator. We've been making it for 5 years now, and before that we had a radio show. So we have a very good rapport, and we've been friends for so long. And so it's a great show about our sort of filmmaking journey so far. And I say it's about love, life, and loss in the pursuit of filmmaking glory. And it's basically a comedy about us failing time and time again, but having wins every once in a while, which is great. And so yes, facebook.com/Guy and Harley, or you can find it on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube. Just search for the Guy and Harley podcast and you'll find us. And then that's probably the main thing. Those are probably the main things. You can also search for Pigville, which is Pigville, Pigville. And you can you go and see our YouTube channel there as well. And you can find all of our back catalog, all our videos. I survived the Zombie Holocaust. You can learn all about us there as well. So yeah, all of those things. And then of course, search for Harley Neville on all of your favorite platforms, and you can find and add me there on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. And I'd love to hear from you, and I'd love to, collaborate one day in the future, or just, interact. Go for it.
Fantastic. Well, dude, thanks for coming on. Harley Neville, this has been a fantastic conversation. I learned a lot about Emmy the Vegan. I learned a lot about New Zealand too. And this was a lot of fun, dude.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. It's been a good time, and it's always a pleasure coming on your various shows. And keep it up. I see you've got a few different projects on the go always, so that's great. So
always,
keep it up. Yeah,
always hustling. That's what I'm doing
every day. That's the trick.
All right. Well,
That's
thanks for everyone in the chat too. It was great chatting with you. I hope you got some value out of it. Hope it entertained you. And take care, everyone.